Hey everybody, this is James from boxofit.com, and anyone who's familiar with the channel understands that we're here because we're passionate about gaming. But I had to make a video um, a little more political than I would normally bother to do. I feel that the message is really important, and I think it needs to be heard. And hopefully you'll watch this, hear the message, take some action, and hopefully we'll all be the better for it. I'm here today to talk about Andrew Snowden, who is the whistleblower on illegal monitoring activities. And I say illegal, but really pseudo-legal is more the appropriate term. Um, Illegal monitoring activities conducted by the NSA. Um, what you read changes from place to place. What we know for a fact is that they have been monitoring search engines, email providers, and cell phone carriers. And don't get me wrong, it's not as if these companies don't store those logs anyway, but we'll get to that later on. The fact is, though, that it is truly a travesty against freedom, against the spirit of what this country stands for, to have him running around the world in fear of prosecution. I mean, the United States government is hunting him down like a dog. We have rapists, murderers, wife beaters. We have the best and the worst of people in this country. And right now, the U.S. government is focused on hunting someone down who exposed their secret wrongdoings. And it is tragic, because I myself am inclined to agree with, I don't know how to pronounce his name, a Judge Andrew Napolitano, I believe, described Snowden as an American hero, a person who is willing to risk life, limb, and liberty in order to expose to the American people one of the most extreme violations of American principles, values, and the Constitution itself in our history. And this is all done in secret. This was brought before a secret court to issue essentially a search warrant and basically like a wiretap warrant against America as a whole. And, when this whole thing was brought to light, Obama responded saying that this scandal should bring about some public debate regarding potential trade-offs regarding liberty and security. And honestly, even this idea is upsetting. We are supposed to be the land of the free. We are all supposedly innocent until proven guilty, and yet here we are being treated like suspects in crimes we've never committed. Everything from our calls and our emails to our internet search is monitored, saved, sorted, and searched. And Benjamin Franklin put it best in saying that those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. In the case of Andrew Snowden, we should all consider ourselves fortunate to have had someone on the inside of a corrupt operation with the integrity of character necessary to hold the government accountable. And what right does the American government have to wag its finger at totalitarian governments around the world and scoff at countries such as China, which limit the flow of information online and control their media to their citizens, when we're treating our own citizens as if they're all suspects of treason? Thousands of so-called whistleblowers, people like Snowden and Manning, are persecuted by mainstream media and prosecuted mercilessly by the government that they once served. These people shouldn't be demonized and hunted down to the ends of the earth for doing what they truly felt was best for America. They should be rewarded for their patriotism to the American spirit and its people, not hunted down like dogs because they pledged their loyalties to honesty, integrity, instead of corruption and secrecy. This secret court, who essentially issued a warrant allowing for the secret gathering of information that would otherwise have been an extreme violation of privacy, was formed back in the late 70s in response to the scandals of the Nixon administration as a means of addressing foreign spies, preventing espionage. And its purpose and authority has been so greatly distorted over the past 32 years that now it can be used as a pseudo-legal justification for the absolutely, utterly unconstitutional violation of privacy for American citizens. The Fourth Amendment is what's really in question here. The Fourth Amendment states, quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." By rights, the United States cannot violate this amendment. Does the government have probable cause to monitor the activities in your home, your phone calls, your emails, your texts, your internet usage? Does the government have any reason, quote, by oath or affirmation, to suspect you, the average citizen, of a crime? What about all of the people internationally that us Americans interact with online and over the phone on a daily basis, whose privacy was also invaded? The United States has assumed itself a position of totalitarian authority over not just its own citizens, but the internet as a whole. An act which, if carried out by a non-allied country, would probably be interpreted as an act of espionage and war. And it's mind-boggling, because in all of this, the media focus is on Andrew Snowden. And Andrew Snowden is not the bad guy here. And he needs to be free to return to this country without consequence. The real villains in this are the ones that no one is pressuring. Admiral Clapper, the director of the National Security Association, was asked directly by Senator Wyden. It is paraphrased, but the original quote is just as to the point. "Are you monitoring millions of Americans and gathering information about them?" His answer, "No, sir." That was a few months ago. And here we are finding out now, thanks to Snowden, that this has been going on for years. It's people like Clapper who are willing to lie under oath, knowing full well that what they are doing must be done in secret, because they are violating the laws of the country they're supposed to be serving. And the American people wouldn't just sit back quietly and be dominated in such a way. The fact of the matter is that this is the elimination of due process and justice. Let's suppose for a second you, John Viewer, have committed a crime. Or Jane Viewer, if that's your gender. The system is supposed to work like this. You, specifically you, have to be identified as a suspect through probable cause and reasoning. If that happens, the government has to get a warrant for your arrest and search and seize your property. And yes, your information, any and all of it that does not fall into public domain, is your private property. The content of your emails, private property. Who you call, when, from where, and how often, private property. Your internet searches, private property. But the government has gone ahead and preempted the system with an indefinite warrant that allows them to collect information on you regardless of whether you're suspected for anything or not. And understand that this system is endangering more than it protects. in addition to the potential loopholes this opens up into the legal system, where if they don't like you, let's suppose the Patriot Act says that because you practice a rather non-popular American religion, they can just go ahead and keep searching through your internet until they find something they don't like. Maybe you've downloaded music. Okay, well, let's blow that out of proportion and put that person in jail. Get them off the streets before they can radicalize more people. You know, whatever the case is, you know, these monitoring systems are endangering more people than they protect. They've been in existence for many years. Everyone from your internet service providers, search engines, phone carriers, etc., they all log everything you do. Why? So if they're approached with a warrant, they can turn that information over. If Warner Brothers finds that, you know, people have been downloading a movie, they're going to go to the internet providers and they're going to say, look, who accessed the Pirate Bay at this time, and your Mediacom or whoever you deal with is going to hand that piece of paper over like that and not even bat an eye. But at that point, you're in violation of a law. It may not be a law you agree with, but you know, that's the law. At least they're playing by some rules. But you know, hearing that, you may be asking, so what's the big deal with the government doing it? And there are actually a few answers to that. Number one, while it's utterly despicable, your service providers are actually spying on you legally. Somewhere in all that fine print of service contracts, you're giving them permission to collect all manner of information on you. And since the majority of these service providers are territorial monopolies that you don't really have a choice but to agree with their terms of service if you're to be considered a functional member of society, meaning someone who can be reached by their jobs, friends, family, etc., they shouldn't actually be able to force that sort of contractual agreement on you, but, you know, hey, this is just one YouTube video and I can't possibly hope to tackle all the abuse of legal loopholes. Number two, all of these monitoring systems are manned, alright? And every manned monitoring system presents a huge vulnerability to you, the end user. That means that somewhere out there right now, there's someone whose job gives them full access to your private life and information. And that person may be trustworthy, but they're just one of hundreds of people with the same level of access to your life. Maybe some of them feel they don't get paid enough and would like to use that credit card of yours you pay bills online with to treat themselves to something nice. Maybe you have a few sickos who enjoy copying the photos of your kids being emailed off to the grandparents, or saving the intimate exchanges between distant lovers. You know, you have so much potential for wrongdoing if someone has the ability to just sit and watch without you knowing that they're there. I've worked as a senior systems administrator for many years and from job to job, and I've gotten asked a lot of times by employers and everything else to what's called rat computers. This means that they can see every key that is hit, they can access the webcam at any time, they can essentially completely and utterly dominate you, the end user, because at the end of the day, contractually, you're on their computer. But the problem is that this is never really conveyed to the end user. So if the person is on vacation and working from home, and an IT guy who is just curious where their vacation is accesses that webcam to find, you know, the woman from accounting lying topless in bed, you know, basically privacy was violated. It's bad stuff. But the fact is, the single most pressing vulnerability to security in any level of IT are the people trusted to uphold it. A lazy IT guy who uses the same password for everything, an employee who steals information and possibly sells it, an accountant who keeps her passwords on a sticky note by her computer. I promise you, all of these security vulnerabilities exist alongside even more, and I promise you they exist among the people who have been tasked with collecting your information. And having worked in federal contracting, I can tell you as well that the federal government is rather ridiculous about sticking to its own security policies. Somewhere right now, there's a server system with every shred of information someone would need to completely destroy your life. Your name, date of birth, address, social security number, phone numbers, internet history, and more. And just as assuredly as I can promise you that there are hacking groups out there right now blindly fishing day in, day out for just one promising lead like that. If Anonymous or LulzSec got their hands on that, that is the holy grail of hacker bragging rights. One person tasked with gathering your information who decides to work from home one day using a computer that's been ratted or has a keylogger on it where every single keystroke is recorded and given to some kid online whose intentions are just not good. And here we are sitting back and not simply having our freedoms stripped from us, but having our very way of life endangered in the process. The simple fact is the government is tragically ignorant when it comes to the internet. I mean, just look at how many times they have failed to take down the Pirate Bay. We're talking about the might of the US government failing to successfully block a website. That is all this boils down to. Billions of research dollars every year spent on internet technology, and they have failed to block a single website manned by a small team. That really, really says something. If they can't do that, what reasonable assumption can be made that they're helping our security by gathering all of our private information and dumping it into one place? The government's saving grace with regards to the internet has been their ability to keep off of it. The reason the IRS is not constantly under cyber attacks is because 98% of it is still done with stamps and paperwork. And many government bodies follow that trend. If we attempt to do something as fundamentally irresponsible as spying on our own citizens and then just leaving that information, because we gathered it digitally, we're going to store it digitally, leaving that information out there for the world at large to potentially steal, we've made it possible for the entire country to be victimized in one cyber attack. We're being invaded. We're being criminalized. We're being suspected. We're being endangered. And we're being lied to under oath. And all of it goes unchallenged. I truly wish there was some level of shelter I could provide to Edward Snowden, who right now is having to take shelter in a freaking airport like the movie Terminal, except anyone who knows him wants him gone. We all owe him a great deal of gratitude for exposing this. And we're just going to sit back and let the government hunt him down for doing the right thing. There is a petition on the White House's official website, and I'll post a link to it in the description. The petition is begging for a pardon for Edward Snowden. I signed this, and I ask that you do it as well, and it seems almost ironic, but you're going to need to register with a name and a zip code and a valid email and stuff to sign this petition. But I promise you it's the White House, and they already have your information, obviously, or else we wouldn't be having this nice little video. I wish there was more we could do at this time, but trying to make these small steps, we're still making steps in the right direction. Perhaps if we, the people, can hold our country to a new standard of integrity, maybe in time we can truly see a change for the better. I would like to have a petition out there right now to demand the resignation from all forms of political office for the people involved in this, along every step of the way. Have that secret court shut down, have Clapper removed from office. I would go so far as to pursue charges of treason against the American people for such an outlandish violation of the United States Constitution. But the fact is, the further down that road you get, the less and less probable you are to see any real level of change. So we have to treat this as a basic human liberties problem. We have to understand that corruption cannot be fixed overnight. We have to understand that the only way things will get better is through the sacrifice that people such as Edward Snowden have been willing to make. And I can't do anything about that at this point except to try and protect the people who went into this knowing. Edward Snowden went into this familiar with intelligence. He went into this knowing his odds of being chased, persecuted, prosecuted, the whole 9 yards. And knowing the risk, he weighed his options and decided that the most important thing he could do was the right thing, to go ahead and blow the whistle. And I'd love to remove that risk. I believe if we can sign a petition and help Edward Snowden get pardoned, if we can make it so that in the future people who see corruption are not so scared to speak up about it, then we can make a change for the better in this country. We can make it so that the people responsible for the corruption, the people planning the corruption, are the ones in the position of fear, the ones who have consequences. It is utterly insane that the people who are doing the right thing are the criminals, and the people who have had their dirty laundry pulled out into the street to be aired in front of the world at large are somehow the victims. This is unacceptable. And I'm sorry to be far more serious than boxofit.com was intended to be. But do the right thing. Sign the petition. Please, you don't have to forward this video around. Forward the message. You know, just make this known. Understand that when people see him appear briefly, that one photo that I'm going to use as the backdrop of this video, that one photo of Edward Snowden, when they see his face and they hear him discussed like we're still hunting for him, understand, let the people understand that what they're witnessing is a travesty. That they are witnessing the government and the media hunt down someone who has essentially given their lives for all of us. It can't go to waste. We have to hold our country responsible. We have to stop these illegal monitoring practices. We have to stop America from thinking that it can completely dominate the internet with SOPA, PIPA, and all of these other things. We have to change how our country treats its own citizens, and when it comes to the internet in particular, it has to be aware that it is working with the world as a whole. Boxofit.com is not very big at this stage. We're not hugely international, and yet daily, I get visitors from all over the globe. I get them from Japan, I get them from China, I get them from the Ukraine, I get them from countries in Africa, that thanks to the public school system in Florida, I've never even heard of. And it is incredible what the internet allows for us to do, the potential for changing the world, the potential for tolerance, and the spread of human liberty that we have by being interconnected. And to let that become the property of a government who obviously cannot be bothered to play by anyone's rules, including their own, strikes me as an amazing tragedy. And that's really all I have to say. This has gone on for 26 minutes. It'll probably be 27 by the end of this because I want to wrap up and apologize. Towards the beginning of this video, I believe I called him Andrew Snowden because I got Clapper and Snowden mixed up in my little rant. I apologize for that. I'll try and remember to put an annotation in there as well. But just sign the petition. Sign the petition. Write your senators, write your congressmen. Research the next time voting season comes out how people were when voting season wasn't approaching. You know, learn what people really stand for before you check a box next to their name, because it all starts at the bottom level and it works its way up the government ladder. And if you don't catch it while you have a say, sooner or later you won't have a say at all. And these small steps towards betterment are all we have to hope for right now.